It's a lovely morning. The sun is out, but it's still kind of cool. So we're looking back at the Great Basin. So that's more or less to the east. I'm on a ridge. I just walked up the pretty steep road from Atlantic City, so I'm a little winded. My pack right now has 8 days of food in it, which is the most of the trip, and will likely be that way. I had a nice stay in the cabin. It was pleasant. The bathhouse was pretty new, so it was in great shape. Everything in there was really nice. The kitchen was stocked, so definitely a nice little stay in town. The restaurant left a little to be desired. The Mercantile. The other restaurant, there's 2 in town, was closed, so I had the choice of one. But anyway, I'm excited because I can see mountains off in the distance. And basically tomorrow I'll be in the winds for real. So today's mostly getting closer to them. So here's South Pass City. Smallest city I've ever seen. A beaver has dammed up the trail. So my feet are well underwater. Doesn't feel like the desert. With that beaver pond as part of the trail and this beautiful grassy trail with all these aspen, I'm going to officially declare myself out of the basin. Which I guess unofficially, or maybe even officially for me, means that I'm at the very beginning of the Wind River Range, which I've been looking forward to this entire trip, and even before I started. The reason that I'm leaving Atlantic City with so much food isn't because you have to, but rather if you choose to do a resupply in the middle of the Wind River Range, you have to go into the town of Pinedale, which is a 14-mile spur trail down to a parking lot, and then you still have to hitch into town. So I decided to try to carry it all in one go instead. I'm now partway into the Cirque de Towers Alt, the blue line. And the beginning was pretty challenging to follow the trail. If you are ever going to do this on the CDT, don't follow the blue line alternate. Instead, use a different map and follow the actual dotted line, such as Gaia, because there's a real trail there, and the blue line doesn't actually follow a trail until it meets up with that trail. I just completely unnecessarily, by accident, walked through a big swamp because I got off trail. So it's a good reminder to constantly check the map. But I'm starting to be in the valley of this alt, and it's starting to get quite beautiful. There were 2 alternates in the Wind River Range that I really wanted to do, which were the Cirque de Towers alternate, which I'm currently on, and the Knapsack Col alternate, which is famous for being one of the more scrambly, steeper, quote, dangerous spots. This is Temple Peak, and the trail goes through Temple Pass, which is that saddle. And I've been told that's a particularly good view, so I'm excited for it. Obviously, it'll be a little bit of work to get up to it, but that's the CDT. Whew, what a climb. Winded. There's a lot of Wyoming marmots up here. Oh yeah, and there's this. This is looking back at Temple Pass, Temple Peak, and Gorgeous Valley. I'm sure it has a real name, I don't know it. After this valley, you get to a much more popular area. So these aren't wild horses, they were horse packed in. But there's shorter trails that are a lot easier to access this area, so I started to see a lot more people around this lake. Well, this all isn't disappointing at all. So that low point is Temple Pass rather. That's Temple Peak. Temple Lake. That's the direction I'm headed. I think those really far, huge cliffs are part of the Cirque du Towers by Lonesome Lake, if I had to guess, but maybe not. And there's this huge thing over here. Very impressive. So I was looking down at this small outlet and I'm seeing a lot of rings. And it's not raining. So my best guess is those are jumping fish. Oh, and side bonus, I just noticed this. There's a cool cave thingy right there. Bonus cave. Besides the fact that the Cirque du Tower alternate is famed for being one of the most beautiful places on the trail, I also really wanted to go there because my father and his climbing friends horse-packed out to it and did a climbing trip in here where they base camped by the lake and then went and climbed some of these different things that are around it, so it had sentimental value to me as well. I was so fortunate. Ow! It's starting to hail, and they're pretty good sized ones. I've only gotten beamed by 2 of them in the head so far, but almost done for the day. Well, I've done my last uphill for the day, as long as I can find space in the Cirque du Towers. So, lots of big mountains. That's War Bonnet. The huge tower, I believe, is Pingora. And the Cirque du Towers is down over that lip. I'm excited. So besides Yellowstone and Glacier National Park, this is one of the places along the trail that is visited by the most people out just for a small backpacking weekend trip or something. So there were quite a few people here, and it does get a lot of use. Someday I want to go back to this area, not only for its beauty, but that really big thing that's right to the left of me right there is Pingora, that mountain, and it's got a 5-6 route on it for rock climbing, and I really, really want to climb that because it's enormous, gorgeous, and not super difficult. The mosquitoes and I and that one angry squirrel are enjoying the sun coming up and lighting up the towers. You can see the first little bit is just touching the top of Pingora. There's too many people here, otherwise this place would be stunning. And also, I mean, like, I understand it's a super popular place, but having to be a quarter mile back from the lake, which I am, I'm following the rules, does kind of stink, because I don't feel like I'm by a lake at all. But that's okay. There'll be plenty of other spots in the winds in the next few days that I expect it to be less busy. And it's not that busy here, there's maybe 15 other people, but that's too many for me. Good morning. So here we are at the Cirque du Towers. I'm just about all packed up. Well, actually I am, I have a pack on. And I'm going to drop down to the lake and then go up Texas Pass, which is my biggest climb of the day, so I might as well get it out of the way early. But that squirrel's been mad at me all morning. But definitely a very beautiful spot. I'm taking so many pictures and videos, but I can't help it. So this really tall peak right there is War Bonnet. And I'm on the north side of the lake right now, so the trail comes from that little pass right in the center. That's Jackass Pass. And this thing is way bigger than I thought it was. It's awesome. Truly stunning. And I will give credit. There were a handful of people at least here, but nobody that I've passed so far has been blatant about setting up right by the lake and ignoring the quarter-mile radius thing, so good on people. Alright, done with the biggest climb of the day, first thing in the morning. Whew, that's no joke. So I'm cresting Texas Pass now. This is looking back at the cirque. The snow definitely refroze up here. It's been a little slip and slidey, but very manageable. And I think right there is the end of the snow for this climb. And I've heard via the notes that you can avoid all the snow on the downside. Well, I've done my biggest up and down of the day in like the first hour and a half, so that's kind of nice. But man, is this descent very steep and loose and sandy. So, yeah, glad I'm doing it on fresh legs. Would be a lot easier if I didn't still have 6 days of food in me, in my pack rather. But this is Texas Lake. The trail goes off this way. And it looks like I'd have to climb up out of something, but when I look at the topo, it actually just follows these gorgeous lakes and slowly descends. So I think I get a treat for the next while where I just kind of get to walk these nice flattish lakey spots with all these huge gorgeous granite cliffs all around me. Barren Lake is up there. You can't see it from here. I saw it on the descent. And then around the corner is Billy's Lake. This trail out of the Cirque du Towers was still pretty popular, and I saw a bunch of people that were backpacking in to go camp there for the night. But shortly after that, I got back onto a much more remote place. I just finished the Cirque du Towers Blue Line alternate, and I am standing back on the red line. The alt comes through that grassy meadow. It was mostly really easy trail to follow until the last mile, and then it goes on a trail that nobody else takes, I guess. But back to pretty easy to follow CDT. Out of everywhere that I've backpacked, and it's starting to be a pretty long list of places and trails, I think that I would put the Wind River Range at the top in terms of the most beautiful, but even more than that is it's unquestionably in my mind the most rewarding views for the least amount of work. The terrain there isn't particularly difficult. There's a lot of climbs up and down from passes, but they are much more mellow than I was expecting. So it was some of the most rewarding, if not the most rewarding amount of backpacking I've ever had for the least amount of work. Well, this is one of the widest creeks I've seen, and there's no way I'm going to be able to rock hop it, so I might as well just get my feet wet. Good morning. It's the 90th day since I left. This is called Hat Pass. I went a little bit further yesterday than I was hoping to because I got to the lake that I was hoping to camp at, and there was like 9 people there, which was way more people than I saw since leaving the Cirque du Towers in the morning. I passed some hikers and backpackers in the morning that were on their way in, but I was stunned to see that many people there. I thought it would be empty, especially because a bigger, what I considered prettier lake right before it by about a mile only had 2 people. So anyway, I went further up the trail and found a spot to myself. But today I got up really early, before 5. I was on the trail for around 6 because it is a weekend. Again, it's Saturday, so a lot of people will be out here playing, and I'm hoping, if I have the energy, to try to go up Knapsack Col and down the other side. I'm just a little bit concerned about how much juice I'll have left in the tank when I get there, because I'm still carrying 5 days of food from trying to do this all in one carry instead of resupplying in Pinedale. Well, it's been 3 hours, started around 6, and there's been way more roller coastery up and down today than any days in a long time. But very beautiful. I'm at Lester Pass, which that sign says 11,560, but the guide and my GPS both say closer to like 11,1, so maybe a little bit of wishful thinking. It wasn't too bad of a climb up. There was a lot of up, but the trail was switchbacky, so that's looking back south the way I came. Still some snow up here. And then you can see there are some mighty huge mountains on this side of the pass. Here's another very, very wide creek called Pole Creek. And I was looking ahead on the map, and it's the only one that I see that looks this big. And I really don't want to have soaking wet feet all day. So I'm going to do what I never recommend doing and actually ford it barefoot. So after the Cirque du Towers alternate joins the CDT again and goes through that past section of the Wind River Range, you get to another popular alternate, which is the Knapsack Coal. And that one passes through the Titcomb Lake basins, which I actually didn't know that it did, and it's a place that I've heard of, so that was a really fun surprise. And then it goes up a really pretty steep slope to the actual pass itself. This is the very beautiful Island Lake, probably because it has those islands in it. But my path goes on that current right-hand side and then up into the next basin. This is still Island Lake, but what a pretty sand beach. This is the beginning of the Titcomb Lakes. So this is the stunning Titcomb Basin. And it's a special spot for me too. I didn't realize that this was part of the Knapsack Coal alternate on the CDT because my father had been here a whole bunch of times with his climbing buddies, and when he passed away, I went through a bunch of his photo albums, like digital camera stuff on CDs, and a lot of them were from here, so it's sort of like an emotional, unexpected surprise. This clip's sound was nothing but wind, so I might as well talk about it. So this is a really popular spot for people to go in and backpack and also to go climbing. But I was very surprised at the lack of good campsites. You're not allowed to camp right by the lake. And like you can see on this hill, it's really rocky. So you're going to have to get a little creative. And if you go on a weekend or something, you might have a hard time finding a spot. I didn't camp here, but knowing that there wasn't much. I'm getting closer to where the Knapsack Coal goes steeply up to my current left. But all the glacier melt is this river here, which is really cool. And that's looking back at the way that I came. These were the only bighorn sheep that I saw the entire CDT, but they were really fun to find. So I had a little bit of nerves going into the Knapsack Coal alternate because of this climb right here, which is reputed as, and actually is, if you look at the numbers, the steepest climb or descent, depending which way you go, on the entire Continental Divide if you include all the alternates. So that had me a little bit nervous, and I'd heard that it's, quote, scrambly and dangerous and stuff. So in my head, I always kind of overbuild that, and I expect it to be worse than it usually is, and this was no exception, but it was extremely rewarding and very, very glad that I did it. Here's looking back at the Titcomb Basin with the two Titcomb Lakes right there. Absolutely gorgeous. Sun's even hiding behind clouds, so I'm not sweating as bad as I go up this steep thing. That's the Twin Glaciers over there. And so this big blocky buttress thing right here, the route looks like it goes on the near side of that. So basically I kind of go up this, probably to the right of that patch of that snow, and then somewhere, you know, close to this boulder. That's where I think I go. From here, it's 1.1 miles and about 1,100 feet of up, steep, like vertical gain, I mean, which is steep, but it's not insane. I think I shouldn't say anything yet, but I might have overbuilt this in my head a little bit too much, like freaked myself out about it. We'll see. All right, here's an update. So you can hopefully see that I'm higher. And this is actually what it is right here, which I won't lie is not nearly as steep as I was picturing. It looks like you can kind of walk on the rocks and then just walk through a little bit of snow and walk on the rocks and get up. And I don't think that's the very top there, but that's a lot of elevation to gain for not too bad of work. So I'm gonna head that way. New critters, new critters. Where are they? There we go. Oh, a lot of them. I've gained most of the elevation, but I've realized that I actually have to go through that pass. So it's a little bit more daunting now that I'm closer. I'm gonna stay kind of high and then rock scramble up. Other people have gone through it a whole bunch of times today, so I think once I get closer, I'll see where they went, hopefully. All right, friends, I'm about to top out. So it comes up down through there, comes around through here. I took it too high, and then I had to down climb these rocks. And it's a true class 3 scramble up to the crest. There's a lot of sandy spots. You can see where a lot of people went, so you could just go there too. I'm probably only 50 feet below the lip. But there's a lot of loose stuff. A lot of the really big rocks might be better handholds and stuff. So if you're ever here, take care through this part. We made it. This is looking northbound. And this is the pass itself. That goes back down southbound, the way I came up. So as a northbounder, going down this side wasn't as technical. It was switchbacky with some sand. And it's hard to see from this angle, but there's still some patches of snow that were pretty easy to glissade down. I didn't even do it on my butt, just my feet. And then it kind of came down like this. But that's the very beginning of the Green River, and that just flows down through the valley, so I think I can kind of follow it and get down to the lakes that it jumps into, where I'll try to camp. So this river is called the Green River, and it has a very distinguished blue-green to it, which is pretty darn cool looking. I've camped in a lot of places, but this might be the most beautiful spot that I've ever set up a tent before. Spoiler alert, it's gonna go like right there. It's not set up yet, but so here's my amazing campsite that's on the knapsack coal alternate. Beautiful cascading streams that join together right there. Wildflower garden. There's my tent in a nice flat grassy spot. This is my kitchen rock. There's a nice little horn up there for my gravity filter, even though there's not any sizable trees around. And I can sit on that rock instead of potentially wet grass. And over there I've got my pile of stuff that I still have to organize. But man, oh man, is this nice. The trail northward out of that beautiful campsite goes right over on that berm of really steep gravel stuff. So that was a bit tricky to navigate. But the water is really as green as it looks in these pictures. It's amazingly beautiful. Well, I wanted to take the opportunity to do one more video of this stunning, stunning place. It's just absolutely gorgeous here. I definitely want to come back here to again. That's Peak Lake. Hopefully you can see that there's just enormous granite walls and peaks surrounding you on every side. Wildflowers, just beautiful. So today is the 91st day since I left, not including all the days I've taken off, of course. The terrain today looks much easier than it's been. I'm down to half of the food weight that I started with the winds, so the pack doesn't feel quite as bad. The terrain's easier. I'm hoping that I start having a slightly easier time because my body's been kind of hurting from trying to do a bunch of good mile days. So we will find out. Well, I'm at Cube Rock Pass, which is the climb out of this gorgeous, gorgeous basin. So this is goodbye for now, Peak Lake. Hopefully not forever. Well, just when you think you're done with steep, snowy traverses, you aren't. So I started trying to go across. The snow is actually pretty firm. So I took it high. There's like a really neat little mini snow cave kind of thingy. So I just have to scramble down to that and get back on the trail. I was definitely sad to be leaving the Wind River Range. It was the #1 spot that most hikers that have done the CDT said they found the most beautiful, and I'd have to agree. And I knew that after this, there wasn't going to be another major, quote, destination area until pretty much Glacier. A lot of the southbounders, in fact, almost all of them, were complaining about how underwhelming the Yellowstone section was to them and how wet it was on the trail and all the bugs and stuff, so I wasn't quite as excited to get there. Well, this feels like a pretty obvious transition. So this is looking back the way that I came. Big, gorgeous granite mountains. And there's this gorgeous lake. 2 of them actually that I've been following. But you can see over there, buildings. I haven't seen those in a while. Cars. I haven't seen those in a while. And when we look off this way, it looks pretty familiar because I'm back just below 8,000 feet and back into what feels a lot like a slightly higher elevation Great Basin with all the sage brush and stuff. So we'll see what the terrain is like now that I won't be up quite as high for a while. Towards the north end of the Wind River Range, shortly after where I took that last video, there's a pass called Gunsight Pass. And there was one random small comment on it that said, from another hiker, if you go up off the trail here, there's a flat, grassy spot that you can camp, and you'll have the best sunset of your trip. And they weren't wrong. Those are the Grand Tetons right there. Or the tallest one is the Grand Teton. Those are the Tetons, I should say. But this was another stunning, stunning place. And what a gem to find. There was thunderstorms coming through that I didn't get wet on. It was amazing. This video ended up being longer than I was planning, but I had such a hard time trying to not include a lot of the videos and pictures that I had of this range because it was just so beautiful. The sunset was incredible, especially sitting behind the Tetons like that. When I got up here, there was a thunderstorm moving through, and I could see the rain coming down right in front of that mountain range, but the sun was still shining through. That's kind of the remnants of the storm passing by. But this was just a really special spot to really kind of reflect on the beauty that I had just experienced in the Wind River Range.